Welcome to another episode of TPM Ridge, the podcast where we bring in industry leaders in technical program management to share their insights, experiences, and the lessons they've learned on the front lines of the TPM movement. I'm your host, Doran Katz, and each week we dive in deep into the methodologies, mindsets, and tools that will empower you to drive excellence in technical program management. Whether you're new to TPM or looking to take your skills to the next level, this podcast is your go-to resource for transforming TPM principles into real-world success.
Welcome, James. We're live back from TPM Summit, hosting the podcast today. And my name is Michi. I'm hosting the podcast with Doran, and Doran will come later. But it's my distinct pleasure to have you today. So maybe you introduce yourself to the audience, what you do, and what's your journey in the morning.
So hi, I'm Jane. I'm the engineering chief of staff at Coda, and over 15 years of TPM experience, spanning from big corporates like Google and Splunk all the way to startups, like SaaS products, to health and nonprofit. So that's a little bit about myself.
Worth mentioning, Coda has also been a proud supporter of the TPM Summit, so welcome you also from that side. So great to have you also on this one. And let's start with Coda productivity and how you tackle that, and why this is such an important topic for the TPM world.
So, what specific question did you want me to answer?
Why is productivity so an important question for TPM in their day-to-day?
That's kind of hard for me to answer because I always get stumped when people ask me, what is the day-to-day TPM? Because it varies between TPMs. So I feel like I'll just every TPM is very different. We're all very unique. And I kind of want to summarize core things. TPMs are expected to basically things happen. You do whatever it takes, whatever gap is dropped, you want to fill it so nothing gets dropped. And so productivity is so important for this because usually TPMs are brought in when things are not going so well, right? When things are going well, you don't need a TPM. When things are not going so well, this is where TPM comes in. I think someone described TPM as only called on when situation potentially dire. And so this is why productivity is so important, because in the chaos, it is really easy to lose sight of the core important things. And so how can you be streamlined? How can you forge organization among chaos? And how can you capture that you're to make sure we're getting place? So that's why, to me, productivity is really important to TPMs, at least me.
And Coda is about rituals.
That's very ritual heavy.
Which rituals do you have in your day-to-day? I know we met before and we talked about it yesterday, so I would like to hear your perspective.
No, totally. So we did talk yesterday, so you have to bear with me to kind of talk about it again. Rituals. So I do have quite a few rituals, both at work and also in personal life. Yes, Coda is very heavy in rituals, and one of the rituals that I appreciate at Coda is this. From running meetings, we have this thing called Dory. The name is inspired by the fish from Finding Nemo. It's constantly who asks lots of questions, and that's the idea. I think oftentimes in meetings, when people ask questions, it tends to be whoever's loudest in the room or who has the most senior position in the room, and it might dominate the direction of the question, where we do not necessarily optimize to what is in the mind of others attendees. So what we have is Dory. It's a system where you can input your question, which respects the people who are not as vocal, who rather use text to ask their questions. Everyone can answer their questions, and then people will vote up, thumbs up and thumbs down on questions to reflect their interests. So that way, the way we kind of organize how the questions asked is by whichever question that was posed that have the highest rating. So that way we can ensure that we take care of the questions that are of interest to more people, or more of the attendees, than the ones that are not as interesting to the attendees. And so I like that rituals because I feel like we are making sure we spend our time and resources on the subject that's most important. Personal life, I have a ritual. I love to travel, but I have 2 kids and a husband, so it's a bit chaotic at home.
TPM.
Yeah, I do TPM them. I do have a spreadsheet, Coda doc that's sort of like checklists of what to do and pack lists and stuff like that. I do.
Oh, nice.
And then I have a ritual myself because I have I call mommy or wife happiness meter. And what happened is I wrote a formula, and the formula is basically if the trip is 1 month away, I'm in nervous mode, but that's okay, and if it's less than a month away and the to-do list is not done and the packing list is not complete, then there's a angry emoji on there. And if everything is done, there's a happy emoji. And my family knows to look at that happiness meter and decide carefully how they want to proceed in terms of finishing their to-dos or bug me about things that they should have finished themselves.
What is great to have is this template for free?
I should think about it. I should.
Do people have a fear to the thumbs down? When you say in the door, and coming back to this, are people fearing to thumbs down proposals or topics that need to be discussed, or is it more the tendency to thumb up and then the more it's thumbs up?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's for me, the thumbs up and thumbs down is just a tool. So what really matters is how the facilitator meeting, facilitate and direct the culture of the meeting to ensure that thumbs down is not a fear sort of option to use. I think the meeting facilitators that I have had the pleasure to work with have adjusted really well. Thumbs down is not a personal attack on the person who asks the question. It's just maybe the question at hand right now is not as vital. Because again, we have a lot of meetings that are cross-functional. Everyone is always looking to optimize what they're working on. But I think as TPMs who are so used to cross-functions, we know that global maximums are not always the summation of local maximums, right? That's impossible. Sometimes a team will have to click ahead so that way it's that's not a ding on the particular team. They're actually taking one for the team, the greater team. And so this is the thumbs down as a way to say hey, as a whole, I don't think it affects the function. Again, it's not a diss on your team or you specifically. It's just impact the other functions. And I think, with that particular framework of mine, if my question gets a thumbs down, I do not feel like it's an attack on me. I do not worry about using that option, and I do not take personal offense when other people use that function. It's just oh, cool. Now I have a good feedback about how my proposal might be very important to my immediate work, but might not be as important to the bigger organization. I'd appreciate that function usually.
So, favorite tool, copy pasting. Setting what is in the mindset of Coda on how you want to solve that, and can you guide us to have you not a classic user journey that you want to decrease the copy pasting of TPMs 1,000 times a day?
Yeah, I guess I want to preface it. I think copy and pasting is just a tool. It's methodology, so there's nothing wrong per se. I use it a lot, right? And I think maybe because I was an econ major, it's all about cost and benefit analysis, right? To me, an opportunity cost. So there's nothing wrong with copy and pasting. Copy and pasting takes 2 seconds to do. And honestly, if it's something that I don't do frequently and it only costs 2 seconds to do it, I will still do it. Because sometimes writing automation takes hours. So it's not cost effective for me to spend hours to build an automation to replace something that will only take me 2 seconds to do and I only perform once a year. That is not the case. Most of the time what happened is we're doing this copy and pasting and it usually takes us half an hour on a daily basis, and when that happens the time adds up. I think we have like the sink cost like effect. We're like, well, we already did it. It's so quick. It's so easy. I'll just keep doing it. There's that lack of inertia for us to consider the automation option. And so my take has been like, just to remind people, automation is an option, and to sort of like in the back of your head going like one day, maybe when you get finally so fed up and copy and pasting the same thing, and trigger be like, maybe I should invest my time to write the automation so that I could set in focus.
One last question that we ask like every participant today in the podcast is, what are your top two advices that you would give like every TPM along the way, if they are either starting their journey as TPM or senior directors as TPM, so we're talking here like you're still also in the learning process. Like, which top two advices do you?
So I'm going to borrow one that I heard this morning because I thought it was super awesome. It's from Jen, who's the keynote speaker. And she said something that, like, I love the tagline, which was like, volume of work is not equal to impact. And I think that's so important. It kind of ties in what I was talking about earlier, is that we do so much busy work. Time is so spent on it, but is it really impactful? You're making yourself so busy, but you're not actually making that big of an impact. I think that's a really great advice. I think it's a reminder for ourselves to be like, is this the most impactful use for our time? And how do we figure out another way to use it, whether it's delegation or to automation or whatever it is? How else could I be more effective? And I think the other second advice I have is, like, don't be afraid to push yourself outside the comfort zone. And I know all of us knows that, but we forget it sometimes.
It's reflecting on that we should do it.
Exactly. I think taking role, we kind of talked about this at the very beginning. It's not very well defined. Everyone does something very different. And so because it's not different, it's so not well defined, like you don't know where the limit and boundary is. And so it's like the opportunity is great, but also it's limited. It's like a double-edged sword. And so we're constantly looking for opportunities and to not be shy about it. I think because the role career ladders are less structured with the role of TPM, I think we need to be better at advocating and letting people know how it's important. I think one of the things I battle with when I first started my career as a TPM is that misconception. And I constantly have to tell people, like, I assist the team, but I'm not the team's assistant. And that's very, very important. Like, I will help the team, but doesn't mean that I'm going to be doing everything for them. I'm definitely not taking notes. I'm definitely not ordering coffee. And then even though when you kind of get to more senior in your career as a TPM, it's still very easy for that line to be blurred. And how do you advocate yourself? And how do you tell people how you want to shape your career? I think these are all very important things to keep in mind.
So your speech is done. About the podcast, and what are you most looking for in the afternoon at the TPM?
Enjoying the rest of the summit, so that I know I already got the hard work out. So now I can just enjoy, relax, network, and watch the other talks.
Maybe it's also a ritual, like do the tough things in the morning.
Yeah, actually, I like that, because otherwise I can't really enjoy myself because it's the nagging feeling in the back of my head.
All right, great. Thank you, Jane, for joining.
Thank you so much for having me here. It is a lot of fun.
We are back at 12:30 with Aman and Stefan, and we are recapping a little bit also on Jen's keynote. How was the morning and having a lunch podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye. Like looking at you, I was like, oh, I gotta look at you.
No, the trick is don't do that. Speaking of,
It's so pink.